Ruby Research presents STEM versus STEAM. Why add the A? STEM and STEAM. What are they and what's the difference? Well, it started off with STEAM first, and it is the acronym for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. When we add the A and make it STEAM, it then becomes for Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Math. Both terms are used when referencing education and careers that involve these categories. When did someone add the arts to STEM? The acronym STEM has been around since 2001, frequently used by the National Science Foundation. Somewhere around 2010, someone had the bright idea to add A to STEM and make it STEAM. Cut to 2014, and you can hardly look at anything about education and avoid the topic. Currently, the Rhode Island School of Design is leading the campaign of STEAM, along with the bipartisan Congressional STEAM Caucus, led by U.S. Representative Suzanne Bonamici and Representative Aaron Schock. The caucus is trying to get STEAM as an official focus in public schools. Why are the arts important to education? It's often the case that creativity leads to innovation. We need to create environments that foster creativity as well as critical thinking. We can't just be good at what already exists. We have to be bringing new things to the table. This is part of why America is falling behind in so many ways globally, but excelling in others. Do you see companies like Apple, Google, or Pixar outside the United States? Not really. These are the kind of companies that are really implementing STEAM in their daily practice. They have creative thinkers working for them, and they give them room to explore, knowing that it's that kind of environment that will relax the mind enough to tap into those creative thoughts. On the same hand, we cannot just let people sit around and only muse ideas. We need to teach those creative thinkers how to put their ideas into practice. Does creativity really lead to innovation? It is noted in studies that creativity in earlier life, 0 to 14, is thought to increase innovation later in life. The team of multidisciplinary researchers studied a group of MSU Honors College graduates from 1990 to 1995 who majored in science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, aka STEM. They found of that group that those who own their own business or patents received up to 8 times more exposure to the arts as children than the general public. The researchers found 93% of the STEM graduates reported musical training at some point in their lives, as compared with only 34% of average adults as reported by the National Endowment for the Arts. In addition, those who had been exposed to metalwork and electronics during childhood were 42% more likely to own a patent than those without exposure, while those involved in architecture were 87.5% more likely to form a company, and children with a photography background were 30% more likely to have a patent. The evidence is there. In an article for Psychology Today magazine, they note, if you look at the mavericks of science and technology, you will see a pattern of creative outlets being a key to their childhood. Creative activity in childhood rewires your brain to think out of the box, according to researchers. In fact, the group reported using artistic skills such as analogies, playing, intuition, and imagination are all key to solving complex problems. Give me some examples, you say. Who are some of these important people and some of the artistic outlets they have? Well, Albert Einstein, who helped invent the atom bomb and discover the theory of relativity, would play the violin on a daily basis. Steve Jobs of Apple Computers used to tinker with electronics with his dad. They would take them apart and rebuild them. He also had the hobby of calligraphy as a young adult. Bill Gates, the former software engineer and figurehead of Microsoft, had almost 24/7 access to a professional-level computer lab to tinker around with in 1970. The company, ISI, let Gates's private school computer club test out the software in exchange for time on the machines for free. More on this in Malcolm Gladwell's 2008 work, Outliers. Michio Kaku, the futurist, does figure skating, And Bill Nye has always loved comedy, and as a young engineer, he did stand-up comedy at night until he took his writing and comedy full-time by creating Bill Nye the Science Guy on the sketch show Almost Live, and then later on his own show on PBS. So where are they going to be learning this art? Making sure that there's funding to the arts in public schools ensures that our children will have access to the arts. Access to the arts can turn our creative thinkers into innovators and our innovators to tap into their creative side. It's a win-win. Students win by personal enrichment, and society too gets to reap those benefits when they create inventions or start successful companies that bring jobs to the U.S. economy. Rex Lamore of MSU believes inventors are more likely to create high-growth, high-paying jobs in our state, and that's the kind of target we think we should be looking for. So we better think about how we support artistic capacity as well as science and math activity so that we have these outcomes. Some people have been championing this idea of STEAM for a while. In fact, Clinton's former Secretary of Education, Richard Riley, summed up this need for innovation to drive our future when he predicted the jobs in the greatest demand in the future don't yet exist and will require workers to use technologies that have not yet been invented to solve problems that we don't even know are problems. Here's some depressing news. America's not #1 anymore in a lot of respects. Until 2008, the U.S. was routinely ranked as first as the most innovative economy in the world by various surveys. That is no longer true. A recent study of 58 countries published in the World Competitiveness Yearbook showed that the U.S. is no longer first and slipped to third behind Singapore and Hong Kong, with Switzerland as fourth. The most recent World Economic Forum rankings placed the U.S. fourth behind Switzerland, Sweden, and Singapore. A Boston Consulting Group poll put U.S. at 8th. The recent Information Technology and Innovation Foundation ranked the U.S. as 6th. However, the report noted that while the U.S. has slipped, that the decision makers, when asked, continue to rank the U.S. first by a wide margin. So the public perception has not caught up with reality. Putting our top people to work. We are no longer dominating the world of the amount of PhDs we're producing in the United States. For a long time, we had that advantages for reasons we no longer have. Like our wars were all fought on foreign soil, which is one of the few advantages we still maintain. Our high number of qualified universities and being economic leaders gave us more freedom to spend money and time on our children's education from birth through college. Places like China, India, Mexico, Denmark, Poland, Korea, Japan, and Australia have all seen growth in the PhD market that exceeds the U.S. We need to make sure that the job market is ready for the highly trained students universities are churning out, unlike Japan, who has so many PhDs that in 2009 they were trying to pay Japanese companies to take on some of the unemployed PhDs in the country. Then there is China's problem. Too many PhDs, and the students need to go study and work in other countries before top Chinese universities will even consider them. Take a look at this chart right here to see how China is more focused on STEAM than the United States is. This is from Newsweek magazine, and it is showing that Chinese parents are holding the arts in higher regard for education than most U.S. parents are. As you can see that the U.S. holds math and computer sciences in very high regards, but as you look at the other three categories of creative approaches to problem solving, entrepreneurial business skills, knowledge of world cultures, you start to see how China has a lead on us. Science fiction inspires real science. Movies and television as art are very accessible forms that children can take in. Countless numbers of children were inspired by Star Trek, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Star Wars, The Matrix, Minority Report, Alien, and many more. Science fiction can lead to real science by spurring creative thoughts like, I wonder if I could really make that. There are also many times where inventors and investors are trying to say, what they want. They're trying to describe it, and they'll often cite things from a science fiction movie or television show they've seen, and then will ask if this can really be built. This was the case with Minority Report, which has spurred on many people in their touchscreen technology use. And then we have Star Trek, which has had people looking how to create a teleportation device since 1993. Fans of Star Wars have wanted to build a lightsaber for decades, and now it can theoretically be built by guys at MIT. Recognizing the importance of STEAM. School MS 534 in Brooklyn is doing a pilot program for STEAM to connect the arts with science, where students assemble digital cameras. It covers science in the assembly of the camera, and then the arts once it's put together and working, and the students can snap pictures. Sesame Street added the arts to its already STEM-themed content in 2012. Remember the Blue Man Group? They started a private school for pre-kindergarten through 5th grade to encourage STEAM in 2007, which, unbeknownst to many, engineering is a major component of the Blue Man Group performances. We don't have enough teachers of the arts. People are building more schools, but we still have less art teachers. In New York City public schools, they found that city schools lost 69 art teachers from 2006 through 2012, even though the system grew by 304 schools during that time. Right-brained and left-brained. It's not true. You might have heard before that you might favor one hemisphere over the other. One's more creative and one's more analytical. But that's been disproven in the last few years. So don't ever chalk something up to being right-brained or left-brained. So many smaller functions go into thinking and communicating that we are almost always using both hemispheres at once. So remember, there is no better side of the brain to use. The best way is to be creative and analytical. Somewhere, the space in between those two lines of thinking is where innovation happens, and innovators help bring up the economy and our nation as a whole. In fact, they help bring up the whole world.